The sky above the planet Tyrex 4 was dark and full of smoke. Fires burned across the capital city. Buildings lay broken. Screams echoed from alleyways. The alien people, called the Zarin, were hiding in underground bunkers, afraid to move. World was under attack. Unknown raiders had appeared 1 week ago. No warnings, no demands, just destruction. They had strange weapons, ones that melted steel and broke shields in seconds. They destroyed defense towers, blocked communication, arrays, and scattered the army like leaves in a storm knot. Now the Zarin had no way to protect themselves, and no way to call for help until Counselor Velen, one of the last surviving leaders, found an old long-range transmitter deep in a forgotten vault beneath the city. Velen wiped dust from the controls. His hands shook as he connected the emergency line. To all friendly systems, his voice crackled through space. This is Tyrex 4. We are under attack. Civilians are dying. Children are starving. Please, we need help. Anyone who can hear us, please respond. Silence. He sent the message again and again. Hours passed. Days passed. No one answered. The Zarin were not part of the powerful galactic alliances. They had always stayed neutral, peaceful. Now that they were in trouble, no one came. Not the Avenor, not the Talaxi, not even the Saurian Empire, who once called them trade friends. Velen sat alone beside the old transmitter. His body was tired. His heart was heavy. He stared at the blinking screen and whispered, "Maybe this is how we die." Not with war, but with silence. Suddenly a new sound. A beep, then a voice. Low, calm, human. Message received. Response team dispatched. Eta, 11 hours. Velen blinked in confusion. Who are you?" the voice replied. Earth. Then the signal ended. The Zarin had only heard stories about Earth. Long ago, humans had tried to join the Galactic Council. They were denied. Too violent, they said. Too emotional. Too unpredictable. Since then, Earth had stayed quiet. Some believed the humans had vanished. Others said they had grown stronger, alone in their corner of the galaxy. But no one had seen an Earthship in decades. Until now, Counselor Velen rushed to the others. "Help is coming," he told the people in the bunkers. Humans from Earth. Fear spread through the room. Humans? One elder asked. They're monsters. They destroyed their own planet once. Another whispered, "They'll just finish what the raiders started." Velen raised his voice. They answered when no one else did. "We don't have a choice. We pray. They're still human enough to help." 11 hours later, the sky cracked open. A strange ship appeared in orbit. Black, scarred, and shaped like a blade. It didn't match any known design. No banners, no alliance markings. Just darkness and silent power. It didn't descend like normal ships. It dropped fast, burning through clouds and landing outside. The city ruins. Dust and fire blew across the streets. Zarin watched from broken windows, holding their breath. The ship's ramp opened. 6 figures stepped out. Tall, armored, faces covered in black masks. They moved like shadows, silent and fast. One held a weapon that looked like it belonged in a nightmare. Another carried something like a scanner, but it had teeth. No one spoke. The leader stepped forward. His voice was cold and clear. "Who leads?" "This planet?" Velen stepped forward, his heart pounding. I do." The human looked at him for 3 seconds, then nodded once. "Point us to the enemy. We'll take care of the rest." Velen stammered. Who are you people?" The man replied, "We're not heroes. We're not diplomats. We're just what Earth sends when no one else will come." Velen's mouth was dry. "Are you soldiers?" The man turned slightly. Behind him, One of the humans was sharpening a blade that looked older than spaceflight. "No," the leader said. "We're worse." Back in the bunkers, the Zarian mothers held their children tightly. The older ones lit small lights and prayed to stars that no longer answered. But above them, something had changed. The humans didn't come to talk, came to end the nightmare. And as they disappeared into the ruins, heading straight toward the raiders' camp, a strange, terrifying hope began to grow. Maybe this time, help had really come. The raiders were laughing inside the ruins of the city center. They threw food into the fire and used Zarian art as target practice. Their leader, a scar-faced brute named Gavril, sat on a broken throne made from a school's front gate. "No one is coming," he said, tearing meat from a bone. "The Zarin are forgotten. Their cries are dust." But then the sky shook. A strange sound echoed across the city ruins. Not thunder, not wind. It was deeper. Like something huge had arrived and refused to announce itself properly. Gavril stood. "That's not one of ours." Far outside the city, the human team moved like smoke glow, silent, unshaken. Their suits didn't shine. Their weapons made no sound. And their eyes behind the masks cold and watching gave away nothing. Zareen had gathered in silence, hiding behind rocks and rubble, waiting to see if their rescue was real. Counselor Velen stood nearby, watching the humans move. He had expected officers, maybe doctors, maybe some kind of peacekeeper force. Instead, he saw one human dragging a crate full of old knives, each one sharpened to the bone. Another with long gray hair, humming softly while cleaning what looked like a flamethrower. A third one, praying, not to a god, to someone they had lost. Velen finally stepped closer. "You're from Earth?" The team leader looked at him. "We are." Velen hesitated. "We sent a call for rescue." "But you don't look like rescuers." The leader didn't smile. "That's because we're not." Velen's voice dropped. "Then, what are you?" The man's eyes, behind the mask, didn't blink. "Earth doesn't send help. We send problems for your enemies." A younger Zaran soldier, brave but scared, stepped forward. What do you call yourselves?" The gray-haired human answered. "First, some call us ghosts." The praying one added, "Some call us nightmares." The team leader finally said, "We're called when things get too bad for normal soldiers. When there's no time for peace, when mercy has died." He tapped his helmet. "We're the ones Earth keeps quiet." But today, Earth got loud. Back in the city ruins, the raiders noticed something odd. No alarms, no warnings. Just shadows, moving where there should be none. Then the first explosion came, not a big one, but surgical. It took out Gavril's scout tower in one shot. The guards ran, confused, bumping into each other. A single metal spike flew from the dark and pierced a raider's throat before he could even scream. The rest turned their guns toward the shadows, and the shadows were already gone. Gavril roared, "Find them. Kill whatever it is." But it wasn't whatever. It was whoever. And they had already decided how this would end. Back on the ridge. Velen asked again, "Why did Earth respond? Why now?" The leader finally answered, "Because Earth doesn't forget what it's like to be ignored. We were once the ones begging for help. We remember what silence feels like." He turned away and loaded his weapon. "Now, we are the answer." The humans began moving out. One of them paused near Velen and handed him a data chip. "What's this?" Velen asked. "Proof," the human said. "Of what?" The man started walking again, calling back just once. "Proof that we came." Zareen watched in silence as the humans entered the battlefield. No banners, no speeches, no mercy. They didn't bring hope. They brought judgment. And for the first time since the attacks began. The raiders started to run. Asterisk. The first scream didn't come from a Zaree. It came from a raider, and it was short, because his throat had already been cut. Night had fallen. The ruins were quiet. Smoke rose like ghosts from broken rooftops. Raiders sat in a loose circle, ragging, drinking stolen supplies, playing loud music, and laughing at the Zarenes' weak attempts to resist. They didn't know something had already slipped past their scanners. It didn't fly. It crawled, low and silent, through the broken pipes under their feet. Gavril, the raider leader, was chewing dried meat when a loud crack echoed across the courtyard. One of his men spun and fell head first. No warning. Just gone. Sniper. Someone shouted, but it wasn't a sniper. The shot had come from inside the camp. One of the raiders, a big one named Score, rushed toward the noise with a plasma blade. He found nothing. No enemy. No sound, until a cold voice behind him whispered, "Too slow." By the time he turned, his knees were gone. Then everything went black. At the city edge, Counselor Velen and a few Zarin watched from an old command tower. "What's happening?" one of them asked, staring through binoculars. Velen answered in a whisper, "They've started." Started what? Velen didn't blink. The end. The humans didn't fight like normal soldiers. They didn't shout. They didn't shoot randomly. They moved like wind silent, sharp, and with purpose. One by one, they slipped into the raider camp. Each had a mission. The gray-haired one took out the power grid. The one with the ancient blade cleaned 2 watchtowers by hand. The woman, with red eyes, used her scanner to mark all exits and then sealed them shut. No escape. Inside the camp, chaos exploded. Raiders were shooting at shadows. They hit each other more than the enemy. Fires lit up the area. Explosions shook the ground. In the center of it all, a single figure walked out of the smoke. The human leader. He carried no gun, just a short, thick weapon that looked like it. Belonged in a museum. A slug thrower ancient tech, but when he fired, bodies dropped and stayed down. Asterisk. Gavril grabbed a child hostage, one of the Zarian they'd taken days ago. He pointed a plasma pistol at the boy's head and shouted, "Stay back, or he dies." The human leader kept walking. Gavril screamed again, "I'll do it." The human stopped 5 feet away. Then he said softly, "No, you won't." And in one motion he threw something. A tiny silver dart. It hit Gavril's arm. Gavril laughed. "That's all?" Then his arm froze. His gun dropped, and the child ran to safety. Gavril stared at the human in horror. "What are you?" The answer came like thunder. Humanity's answer to monsters like you. The battle was over in minutes, not hours. Not days. Minutes. By dawn, the raiders were gone, dead, captured, or fleeing into the hills with broken minds and bloody boots. The Zarians slowly left their bunkers. Children stepped into sunlight again. Elders blinked in shock. The fires were out. The air was still. Velen looked at the battlefield from above. It didn't look like war. It looked like surgery. Precise. Cold. Final. And in the middle of it, the human team stood without emotion, checking gear, marking bodies, scanning for survivors. Velen made his way down. He walked carefully across the ruined square until he stood before the human leader. You saved us." The leader didn't answer. Velen continued, "It was brutal." The human looked at the horizon. So was the silence before we arrived. Then he walked away, his black boots leaving no sound behind. Asterisk. The boy was shaking. He had been hiding inside a burnt-out school bus, too scared to cry, too hungry to speak. He thought the monsters would come back, but then the bus door creaked open. A tall figure stood there, backlit by orange firelight, black armor, no badge, no words. Just quiet breathing behind a dark helmet. The boy whimpered. The figure knelt slowly, reached into a pouch, and handed him something, a candy bar. Earth chocolate. No speech. No smile. Just a small gift. And a quiet nod. Then the human turned and walked back toward the smoke. Counselor. Velen had been watching everything. He stood beside a rooftop air vent, observing the humans from a distance. They didn't talk unless needed. They didn't joke. They didn't celebrate victory. They simply moved from one task to the next. One was digging graves for the Zarian civilians. Another was rebuilding the main power grid with silent focus. Even the woman with red eyes, who had killed 10 raiders with one drone strike, was now gently guiding injured children to safety. Velen whispered, "They don't act like soldiers." His aide nodded. "They act like ghosts." Later that day, Velen approached the human leader again. The man stood over a map, marking potential raider hideouts in the surrounding desert. "Excuse me," Velen said. The human said nothing, but didn't push him away. Velen asked, "You saved us, but you act like it doesn't matter." The man looked up, voice calm. "Because it doesn't change what's next." Velen frowned. "What is next?" The human folded the map. "We make sure they never come back." In the makeshift field hospital, a Zaran medic watched a human tending to a wounded child. The soldier had taken off his helmet. His face was rough, tired, scarred, but gentle. He wasn't trained in medicine, but his hands were steady, his eyes careful. The child whispered, "Why are you helping me?" The human replied softly, "Because once someone helped me." The medic blinked. "You're not like the stories?" He looked up. "What stories?" She swallowed. "That humans are monsters." He gave a small, sad smile. "Maybe we are, but not to those who need us." Outside, 2 humans were training Zarin defenders, showing them how to aim better, move faster, think sharper. But they weren't loud like drill sergeants. They taught through action. Through example. And when one Zarin teenager made a mistake, the human didn't yell. He simply repeated the move and let the student try again. Over and over. No anger, no pride, just patience. That night, the Zarian lit a small fire near the old council chambers. Survivors gathered around it. They sang a soft song of remembrance, ancient and sad. Far on the edge of the light, the humans stood watching, not part of the moment, but not turning away either. Velen walked to them. "You can come closer." The leader shook his head. "We're not made for peace." Velen asked, "Then what are you made for?" The human's eyes flicked toward the stars. "Pain, and making sure others don't feel it." Then something strange happened. One of the Zaran children ran to the human group and hugged the woman with red eyes. She froze, didn't know what to do, but slowly she put her arm around the child. Not a word was spoken, but that one action said everything. The sound was small, just one shot, but it was enough to change everything. The human with gray hair, a quiet man who prayed before missions, jerked back as the bullet tore through his armor. Blood spilled down his arm. He fell to one knee for a moment. The others didn't move, not because they were afraid, but because something deep inside them had just snapped. Velen saw it first from the rooftop. The humans froze like statues. Then, without warning, they all stood at once, eyes locked on the hills. They weren't soldiers anymore. They were something else. The leader spoke into his calm. Just one word: hunt. The woman with red eyes sprinted toward the hills. No commands, no orders. She moved like lightning, dodging trees, leaping over rocks. Behind her, 2 more humans followed, silent and fast. The injured man tried to rise, blood dripping from his arm. "Don't," Velen said, kneeling beside him. "You're hurt. Let me help." The human coughed, eyes cold. Help them. Velen looked up. What are they going to do? The man gave a chilling answer. Make sure no one ever shoots at U.S. again. On the hill, the sniper tried to reload Dot. He had already started running, but it didn't matter. The first thing he saw was a flash of metal, then nothing. His body was later found without a mark, just his weapon, bent in half. The humans didn't stop at one. They found the sniper's trail, then followed it back to an old stone hideout. Inside were 5 more raiders, left behind to track and kill. They never got the chance. The red-eyed woman went in first. She didn't use a gun. She used a blade, made of black glass, and no one inside screamed for long. Later, Velen approached the human leader as he cleaned the blade beside a burning barrel. I've seen many soldiers in my time, Velen said, but I've never seen what you just did. The man didn't look up. We told you. Told me what? We're not soldiers. We're the people Earth sends when someone makes a mistake like that. Velen swallowed. That raider made a mistake? The leader's voice was cold. He made the last one. Back in the camp, the injured man finally stood with the help of a Zaran healer. He said nothing, but nodded once in thanks. The children nearby stayed quiet. One of them asked, why did they get so angry? Velen answered slowly, because they don't show pain until someone makes them feel it. The next day, every raider hideout in the region had gone dark. No signals. No noise. Just quiet and fear. One message was left behind on a wall in the raiders' own language. Earth responded, but the Zaran saw something else. They saw the way the humans sat around the fire at night, close, guarded, tired. They didn't celebrate. They didn't rest easy. They stared at the stars as if haunted by something only they could see. One of them was wounded. So they burned the night and reminded the galaxy what happens when you bleed a human. Asterisk, the battlefield still smelled like fire. Ash floated in the wind. Blood had dried in broken streets. The Zaran survivors were sweeping the roads, gathering their dead. The humans stood nearby silent. UNOVING. No one dared speak to them, not after what they had done. Counselor Velen stood with his hands behind his back, watching the human team from a safe distance. They had destroyed 3 raider camps in 2 days. No trial, no mercy, just swift, brutal judgment. People called them monsters. Even some of the Zaran guards whispered, they enjoy killing. But Velen wasn't sure. He had seen something else. In their eyes, something strange. Regret. Later that evening, a crowd gathered outside the ruined school. Zaran children had returned to the playground laughing for the first time in weeks. Their parents watched closely, but let them play. One human stood near the fence, helmet off. It was the one with the short blade and the scar across his eye. He just watched them play, quiet, still. One little girl noticed him. She walked over and stared. You're scary, she said. The human blinked, then crouched down. I know, but you saved my brother. He nodded. Then she handed him something, a pink ribbon. For your knife, she smiled. He didn't know what to say, but he tied it around the blade and stood guard beside the children for the next 2 hours without moving. Elsewhere, the red-eyed woman found a wounded raider hiding in a warehouse. He was no threat. Broken leg, no weapon. He crawled away, begging, please, no more, please. She raised her weapon. Then paused. Asterisk. She looked at him and saw something familiar. Not evil, not defiance, just fear. She lowered her weapon and walked away. That same night, a message came from the Galactic Council. Cold, formal. Do not engage further. Return to Earth. Your methods bring discomfort to our allies. Velen handed the message to the human leader. The man read it once, crumpled it, and dropped it in the fire. "You're not going to answer?" Velen asked. The leader looked at the sky. They had their chance to answer when you called. In the central square, the Zarian held a small ceremony to honor their dead. They lit candles, shared stories. No speeches, just warmth and tears. The humans stood at the edge, faces half lit by firelight. They didn't join, but one by one. They lit candles to Dot and set them on the ground, not for the Zarian, but for someone else. Velen approached the team before they left for patrol. "I owe you a question," he said. The leader raised an eyebrow. "Only one?" Velen gave a small smile. "Why do you fight like that?" The human's eyes drifted to the ruins. "Because peace was never given to us," he said. "We had to take it, and we still carry the scars." Velen nodded slowly. "And yet," he said, "you showed mercy today." The man looked at him. "Mercy isn't weakness. It's a choice. One we get to make when the enemy gives us a reason." That night, rain fell gently on the city for the first time in weeks. Zarian families stepped outside to feel the drops on their skin. One child held out a hand to the human with the blade and said, "Come feel it. It's safe now." The human looked down at his black gloves, then removed one. He reached out and felt the rain. For the first time, the people of Tyrex 4 stopped calling them monsters. They called them protectors, because mercy from a monster meant maybe they were human after all. The ship was ready. It stood at the edge of the city black, scarred and waiting. No banners, no anthem, no celebration. Just silence. The human team stood beside it in formation. Clean armor, packed gear, faces unreadable. The mission was over. The raiders were gone. The Zarian were safe. The skies were quiet. But the humans didn't smile, because they never came for thanks. "Counselor." Velen approached them slowly. In his hands was a silver pendant, an old Zarian symbol of honor. He offered it to the human leader. "This is our highest gift," Velen said. "You have earned it." The human looked at the pendant. Then shook his head. "We don't take trophies." Velen was quiet. "Then why did you come?" The leader answered without hesitation. "Because you asked." And no one else did. Children ran up to them. One girl held the same pink ribbon she had given to the blade wielder. It was now tied proudly around his wrist. "Will you come back?" she asked. The human bent down. "If you ever call again, we'll hear it." Another child hugged the red-eyed woman. She froze for a second, then carefully hugged back. The crowd watched in awe. These weren't monsters, not anymore. The humans turned to board the ship. Velin called out one last time. "What should we tell the galaxy about you?" The leader paused. Then sighed. "Tell them Earth still listens. Tell them we still remember what silence feels like. And tell them if we ever return, it won't be to ask questions." The ramp lifted. The engines hummed. Then the ship rose, smooth and fast, vanishing into the dark sky like a shadow swallowed by night. No trail, no sound. Just a presence. Gone. Days passed. Weeks. The city rebuilt. Children laughed. Trade resumed. But the memory remained. Not of fear, but of power used with control. Of monsters who chose mercy. Of silence answered by fire. One day, a message appeared on the outer wall of the city, carved with a blade no one saw. 6 words. "Next time, call earlier." Earth. Velen looked up at the stars that night. He didn't feel afraid. He felt protected, because somewhere out there, across the void, they were watching. The ones no one expected. The ones no one wanted to need. The ones who came anyway. And the stars felt safer. The end. Asterisk.